Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Pete Eason, Deputy Administrator with our Physical Development Division. I have 3 quick staffing updates just for you and the public viewing today in physical development. First of all was our own Kay Beniak, who was unanimously nominated by the Minnesota County Engineers to be the nominated for a National County Association of Engineers. So that unanimous nomination just as a reflection of her work, both not only locally but at the state and national level as well. Unfortunately, you know, she did not come home with the final award, but I felt compelled to. It speaks volumes of her work, and we know that she was. We could ask for a recount, but so congratulations.
We still think she's a star.
Yeah. I did embarrass Kay this morning. All right. Second update is, and you already got to meet our new Director of Property Records and Licensing, Mary Haft. So I'm not going to ask her to come up again either, but unless you have questions of her. But I just wanted to give a little background.
10-minute speech this time.
Oh yeah, I wrote notes this time.
So that, as you know, Mary is well known in the community. She comes to us 12 years as the city administrator for Byron. And prior to that, you may not have known, she was also their director of finance and city clerk. She's been active and has chaired the Rochester Area Economic Development Board. She's active in our ROCA group, among other involvement in the community. So she just brings, she came in last Monday as her first day, which you heard from her then, but she made it through her first week. She said she was smiling when she came, and she was smiling at the end of the week, so that's good. She's still here. So I want to thank Mark Kropski publicly too, just for having this overlap over this next month between now and when Mark retires, to just get Mary introduced to the other parts of the work that Mark is so familiar with. So that was the second thing. And then thirdly, to just say that a reminder of 2:30 today here is the reception for Mark and to celebrate Mark's 32 years with the county. So,
Good.
All right. Thank you, Pete. Any more public comment? Up to your interviews, right, today? Okay. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
No.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Item is Olmsted County Assessor swearing in. Appoint Julie Hackman as Olmsted County Assessor upon Mark Kropski's retirement as Director of Property Records and Licensing. Pete?
good morning again, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Pete Eason. I'll just quickly kick it off and hand it over to Mark before we then have Judge Allen here to, if upon your approval, swear in Julie as our county assessor. So we're thrilled and ask for your approval to appoint Julie Hackman as our next county assessor. As you know, Mark has served in that role for a number of years, and Julie has well-established training and experience in that area, and just thought I'd have Mark share a little bit about that with you and answer any questions you may have about that, but we're seeking your approval to appoint Julie as our next county assessor.
Great.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mark Kropski, Director of Property Records and Licensing. I'm here to beseech you to approve Julie Hackman as the next assessor of Olmsted County. But, you know, my words really don't speak nearly as loud as the people behind me. As you look, you see all of Julie's staff and staff from other areas of PRL and I think other departments. And so that's a testament to the person you're getting as the next assessor. There are over 1,000 moving parts to the property tax system. It's very complex, and I told them not to call me now, but it is very complex. And this year's legislative session, with the changes that are coming up, that I could spend the next half hour talking about, are going to create more moving parts to the system. And you need somebody steeped in that, that understands that, and also understands the IS world property tax and appraisal system, which is very complex, and she's very expert at that. Julie's been serving as the assessment services manager for the past 16 years. She's well versed in every bit of the assessor's office and what an assessor needs to do. And we're doggone lucky to have her, because a lot of counties throughout the state are struggling to find an assessor. So we have one here. We won't miss a beat. This is an incredible opportunity for Olmsted County. Julie exhibits the highest ethics. Her integrity is impeccable. Her work ethic is amazing. She's a heads down worker. She's probably like cringing because of all the comments I'm making, but she deserves every one of them and probably more. So with that, I just heartily endorse Julie for the next assessor of Olmsted County. Thank you.
That was your nomination speech, Mark?
Yes.
Can I get a nomination?
I move that we appoint Julie Hackman,
Second.
Olmsted County Assessor.
All right, we have a motion to second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Carries. Congratulations. We have the swearing in. Gentlemen.
She has to swear.
Sure. Ready? All right, please raise your right hand. I, Julie Hackman,
I, Julie Hackman,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will discharge faithfully
and that I will discharge faithfully
the duties of the Office of County Assessor
the duties of the Office of the County Assessor
in the County of Olmsted,
in the County of Olmsted,
the State of Minnesota,
the State of Minnesota,
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I don't know how I follow up his speech, so I'm going to leave it at that, but thank you for your confidence and support. We've got great staff, and I'm excited, a little nervous, but looking forward to the opportunity, so thank you.
You'll do great. Thank you, Julie.
Congratulations.
All right. That was nice. All right, we'll move to public hearing. Hold a public hearing and approve the new county ordinance for Grand Park rules and regulations. So who's going to cover this?
I'll bet you Tom's got this one. But just a guess.
Thanks to all of you for the work you do. Have a great week.
Thank you. Good day.
Mr. Chair, members of the County Board, Senior Assistant Olmsted County Attorney Tom Canan. To provide you with a little bit of background on this topic, you will recall earlier this year, we worked with the Parks Department to bring in some updates to the parks rules and regulations, which were helpful and needed. And that prompted some discussion by some of the commissioners to basically ask about, and let's flash back for a second, there have been some issues primarily during the Olmsted County Fair, but other events potentially at Grand Park as well over the years, where having some set of rules and regulations for Grand Park was deemed to be something that would be a good goal that we should shoot for. And so after we heard that, the county parks rules and regs are not, they're intended for a rural setting, not necessarily the same as the setting that we have at Grand Park. So we did need to take those as a basis and tweak them a bit. We also looked out there because I realized that it's also the home of the Olmsted County Fair, and it's a fairgrounds in addition to being a site for many events. And so we looked to other county fairgrounds sets of rules and regulations to see kind of what was out there elsewhere in the state of Minnesota. So what you have before you today, and we're asking that you hold a public hearing and then approve these rules and regulations, and they'll become part of the county's code of ordinances, is a slightly different version of what we have in place for the county parks. We did meet also because we felt it was important with the sheriff and with representatives of Rochester Police Department to make sure that they're supportive of the changes that we're intending to make here. And they offered some revisions, and we incorporated those into the last draft that you have here. And then finally, I wanted to mention that we also reached out to the Olmsted County Fair, and it's my understanding from Matt Miller that they've reviewed these as well, and it's important. We want their approval, and they intend to have them in place and guide their activities once the fair is up and running this year as well. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
So this enhances their ability to enforce too, if I remember right. True, Kevin? Agree? Yeah, great.
Yes.
All right, any questions? All right.
Thank you.
All right, so now this is a public hearing, so is there anybody from the public that would like to speak about this? They like to speak? Third and last time, would anybody like to speak about this?
Move to close public hearing.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the hearing's closed. Thoughts?
Move approval.
Second.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Thought that'd be more controversial.
Yeah.
All right, that was easy. Now we'll move on to consent agenda. Proclaim May National Nurses Month. Proclaim May Mental Health Awareness Month. Proclaim May Supervised Visitation Awareness Month. Proclaim May Foster Care Awareness Month. Proclaim May Building Safety Month. Approve the April 19th, 2022 Olmsted County Board Minutes. Approval of change order number 3 on contract 2022-126 OWEF Unit 3 ash discharger install. Accept quotes for season supply of services and materials to maintain county roads. Award contract for county projects C-22-104 and C-22-117. Get a motion?
Just one question on the quote for services and materials. Is it going up significantly? Anybody address that? We've seen dramatic increases in the supplies for that stuff too, Ben.
Morning, Commissioners. Ben Johnson, Public Works. The bituminous hasn't gone up as much as it has for our bituminous projects. Just the materials. It's gone up about $10 a ton, which would be somewhere in the range of 9% or so. And then the chloride has gone up, not too awful much either, maybe 10% or so.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, I need a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carries. Thank you. All right, back to our regular agenda. Proclaim Olmsted County and the City of Rochester joining House America to respond to homelessness.
Just want to very briefly touch on the House America program, the event that we had last week, and thank all of you for your participation. Oh, I have this slide. You think I've never done this before. Just a couple of slides about House America. So it is a new HUD initiative highlighting investments in the American Rescue Plan Act that are made around housing and assisting people experiencing homelessness. And so as part of that, we were asked to set ambitious, achievable community goals. And so we did set 2 goals. One is to create 120 new housing units for people who are at 50% or less of the area median income. And then the second one is to rehouse 100 individuals previously experiencing homelessness. The time period for that is October 1st of last year through all of 2022. So previous actions, this came to the HRA board in February, so many of you will remember it from there. The City Council joined this in March, and now we're asking the County Board to formally join this initiative. Instead of going on and on about all of this in the program, I thought it would be much better if we could just play a short clip from one of the news channels that covered our event last Friday. And hopefully this works.
Searching for a new Subaru? Well, good news. The search is over. Check out this month's offers on new.
Well, big money meets deep commitment as leaders from Rochester and Olmsted County are forming a new partnership with a national organization to get more housing for those who are experiencing homelessness. ABC 6 News reporter Sydney Zatz explains.
Olmsted County dedicated $1 million in American Rescue Plan Act funds to get this building, 105 Broadway Avenue North. It's a place for those experiencing homelessness to stay, and for others, it's much more than that.
I have family here, and they want to, be of this place, I know I am doing better. I really am thankful for it. Have a bed to sleep in because I was living in a car.
This is Arlene. She moved to transitional housing last fall, and she's been homeless off and on for the last 5 years. A former addict, she says she's had the resources to help her with her addiction and other mental health issues.
When I have a problem with anything, I can talk to just about any of the staff members. We each have an advocate staff member, so we sit down and do our goals or whatever, and that kind of helps out too.
The partnership with House America is one piece of the puzzle to help address the ongoing issue of homelessness. In the last 2.5 years, Olmsted County has helped in the creation of more than 200 new housing opportunities, as well as case managing services.
Partnerships like this that make me so optimistic about the future of our community and our partnerships with House America.
Complex issue such as this takes invested partners, commitment, innovative solutions, and we are grateful that community partnerships are providing this.
It doesn't stop there. Moving forward in partnership with the Coalition for Rochester Area Housing, the county plans to add another 120 housing units for families earning less than 50% of the area median income. And to top it all off, Olmsted County plans to help 100 households that previously experienced homelessness.
I hope it helps a lot of people. They need to have more housing. I think there need to be more buildings. Maybe they can find more buildings.
If you are interested in giving back,
Thank you. I just thought it'd be nice to take a moment to share Arlene's story this morning. I think you've heard us talk about this an awful lot, but to get the perspective of one of the residents at the 105 of the work that's being done and the impact that it's having in their life is much more impactful than anything I can say here at the podium. So with that, that's kind of our update on this morning. And again, I want to thank you for the event we had. I also want to thank Rachel Wick and the PAC team for their work in creating that event last week. That was a ton of work. Hopefully Rachel got a chance to enjoy her weekend. So tell her thank you, Deb. I don't see her here, but thank you and everyone else for your support of this initiative.
Thank you, Dave. Great. Appreciate it. Any questions? Okay, we're good. Thanks, Dave. Next up, or second, we have to make a motion there. We have to.
Yes, you need
there's
a
an
motion.
action item here.
Oh.
So are there any thoughts?
I move that Olmsted County join House America. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries. Got her. Thank you. All right. Next up, Administrator Showcase, Olmsted County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Just wanted to take this opportunity, thank you Administrator for allowing these opportunities to provide the showcase and highlight a couple of areas that in our office that normally don't get seen and aren't heard a lot about. And sometimes if you hear about them, it's because something not so nice happened. So I guess I can play this. So today we're going to feature two parts of our office, as I mentioned. One, again, I think you've heard probably some about this. You've heard me talk about the group. The Violent Crimes Enforcement Team is led by Captain Mike Bromberg, and then the other group, another part of the detention center side of the office, is our children of incarcerated parents. And I know it's not just the sheriff's office that's involved in this. There's a lot of other departments and people in the county that have a lot to do with the children of incarcerated parents effort that we're still working on and moving forward with. So, I want to bring forward the two captains that will be talking about this. Captain Mike Bromberg will lead first with the Violent Crime Enforcement Team and some of the work that's going on there. And then Captain Tesmer will follow up with the children of incarcerated parents. So, Captain Bromberg.
Captain Mike Bromberg of the Sheriff's Office. Here to talk about the Captain Mike Bromberg of the Sheriff's Office. Here to talk about the Southeast Minnesota Violent Crimes Enforcement Team. It's a mouthful, and that's why we just call it the SEMVSET. Who we are a joint powers board made up of 8 counties and 7 cities. We're made up of a commander. I have a task force tech who does all of our paperwork with our seizures, our forfeitures, and reporting all of our numbers to the state for our grants. We have 21 agents and an analyst that's provided by the National Guard. 4 of those 21 agents are employees of the sheriff's office. They're investigators or detectives. Our National Guard analyst is a key piece to our puzzle. It's provided to us by the Minnesota or the Midwest Counter Drug Terrorism Center. He analyzes phones, data, open source information to gather intelligence to assist us in our investigations. Our board of directors is made up of the chiefs and sheriffs of the agencies, and they meet monthly to approve our financial statements and conduct other business. As our mission there is to investigate violence and narcotics trafficking and dealing in southeast Minnesota, and to educate the public on signs of drug trafficking and trends within our communities. We'll get into the trends here in a second.
You're going fast.
All right, how we operate, our sources of revenue. Myself and the task force technician are in kind by the county. We're the largest agency, so the history of this thing from the beginning has been we're the lead, and along with the fiscal agent. Each agency contributes at this point $7,900 to our account. We have a state grant, which is actually changed this last year. They're doing a 2-year grant instead of a 1-year, so instead of basically every 6 months starting the grant process, they've streamlined it for us to make it a little bit easier. The bottom one there is the HIDTA, the high intensity drug trafficking. We're the only out of metro area county that receives money for that. We have $60,000 that we can spend on certain items to enhance our investigation techniques and technology. Our major expenses are software, which is going up drastically with phones. A piece of software we share between us, the police department, and the sheriff's office went from $28,000 to $58,000 last year. So that seems to be a trend. We get 21 vehicles. It's not leased technically through Enterprise. We buy them and then we switch them out, because in narcotics investigations, when you're doing surveillance, sometimes people make your car, so your car is no longer good to do investigations, so we have to trade them out. Works much better that way. We used to lease them from a car dealership and we're losing a lot of money. This has actually turned to be profitable with us. And then purchasing evidence and information. Methamphetamine went from, the good news is the methamphetamine went from $5,000 a pound to $2,500 a pound. The interesting piece about that is we used to buy meth in ounces, and now we're buying it in pounds. It is that much more prevalent in the last year than it's ever been. So where we used to spend $600-700 on a buy, now we're spending $2,500 on a buy. So we're going through a lot more money purchasing evidence. Here are 4 bricks of cocaine, basically 4 pounds, that we took off of a traffic stop late last year. This gentleman ended up in prison. It was a second offense. Cash. Here's an interesting one that we had last year. This here is, as you can see, Gatorade, and it was mixed with edibles. This was a large edible manufacturing plant in an apartment northwest Rochester. We stumbled upon this guy when we arrested somebody else. He had thousands and thousands of packages. He was his own chemist, mixing marijuana edibles. As you can see, the tub there full of packaging in the front. He actually created his own label, had his own Snapchat account, had his own private market. This was something that nobody else had seen in the state of Minnesota until we got to this one. Like you can see there, it took us 3 pickup loads full of stuff out of a 2-bedroom apartment that he was manufacturing all this. The scary thought of it is he has no degree in chemistry or anything else. So he's just making these willy-nilly. we'll go back here. This is going to be a little bit alarming, I believe. The first three columns, 19, 20, and 21, are all year-end statistics. And the last column for 2022 is first quarter. And if you go down to methamphetamines, you can see that we've already seized 77 pounds of methamphetamines in the first quarter. It is coming in, like I said, by the truckloads, and no matter where we turn, we're finding multiple pounds where we used to find ounces.
See, heroin is down, so you find people are switching to methamphetamine instead of heroin? Or?
No, Commissioner, the heroin is very much an underground, hard-to-crack group. They only deal with people they know, and getting people to work with us gets to be very difficult. Sure. Through confidential informants trying to track that down. You see in 2020 that was high, but it's on the word of heroin. Heroin isn't really heroin anymore. It is fentanyl. In all the stuff we've purchased that people sell us as heroin, turns out being the majority of it is fentanyl.
So when you say these are seizures, but are they seizures, or are they purchases, or is that a combination?
Combination between purchases and search warrant arrests, traffic stops.
And what are you anticipating, or what are you assuming is driving the huge increase in methamphetamine?
Super labs in Mexico and direct contact with Mexico, where in years past, a lot of our dealers would deal with somebody out of Chicago, Los Angeles, Dallas. Now these phone calls go directly from Rochester, Byron to Mexico. They send somebody down, pick it up, drive it back.
Do you have a sense of what's driving that demand difference? The demand curve has changed, obviously.
No, there was some thought at our commanders meeting that we were missing, our statewide commanders meeting, that we're missing a segment of the population that is doing meth. Everybody pictures the meth head as the person with this open sores and twitchy, and the meth that's coming out of Mexico is 99% pure. So back in the late 90s, when we had the Sudafed being stolen off the shelf and making it in the neighbor's barn, that stuff was maybe 10% pure, and now you're seeing 98, 99% purity in the stuff manufactured in Mexico. So people that can use a little bit of it don't show the signs of the typical meth head as we think of that we see. So the thought could be, amongst some of the Metro commanders, is that they have soccer moms that are doing meth. Just do a little bit a day, stay awake, do the laundry, take their kids to soccer practice, don't eat all day, keep them going. The market's there. It's just nonstop at this point. Our drug overdose deaths, 47 is a preliminary. You can see that we went from 29 in 2020 to 47. We're going to assume that's going to be 48 or 49. We had, as most of you are aware of, the triple overdose out in Iota in, I believe it was January, where we resulted in 2 deaths. Some of those toxicology reports aren't back, so that report's still, it's an open and active investigation. Tracking overdoses is very difficult for us, so we have a thing called OD map that all law enforcement and ambulance services put their data into. Whenever we go to an overdose call, whether it's a death or a recovery, we're supposed to enter that into OD map. But what happens is a lot of these people get dropped off at the hospital. The hospital doesn't have the same requirement as to put it into OD map. So when you look at my OD map numbers, I only had 9 deaths in 2020. So there is some hope that at the state level that there will be some legislation that will make hospitals report this data to us, because if we don't know about it, we can't help fix the problem. So hopefully we'll get something along those lines. There is a whole nother aspect to it is Narcan is available from every pharmacy in the city. A lot of things that happen with these drug addicts is they overdose together. So one will take drugs and the other will stand by with Narcan them back. And those are incidences we never hear about. So trying to track actual overdoses is a very difficult thing to grasp onto.
Officer Bromberg, the overdose, is it primary fentanyl or is it methamphetamine or something else?
It's primarily fentanyl. And a lot of times they'll go into treatment, they'll come back out and just use too much, or again, you don't know what you're buying and it's 100% fentanyl where the last one was 50%. The scary thing is when somebody overdoses on Xanax pills or has a general overdose, they flock to that dealer to buy their product. It's very counterintuitive to the way we think, but that's the way drug users operate. They look for that overdose high.
And these are just people that died from overdose. So this isn't, I've been using meth for 20 years and now I have a heart attack and I die. That
No,
doesn't count.
these are straight drug overdose deaths. So
We keep track of income levels of the people that are dying of overdoses. Is it, upper income, middle income, lower income, or all over the place?
we don't keep track of that. I would tend to say it's lower income because they have a habitual drug habit that doesn't allow them to work, and they've truly burnt all the bridges with their family members, and they just bounce couch to couch.
Can our medical examiner determine that a death was caused by a drug overdose?
Yes.
That's very reliably?
Yes. And a matter of fact, we're in May already, and we still have 2 deaths that they're still working on from last year to determine the exact cause of death.
So all of these drugs are detectable in the body if it's
Yes.
an overdose. And you've been telling us, or the department's been telling us for years, that our bigger problem is meth rather than opioids. But you're telling us today that the opioid epidemic might just be more hidden or less visible to law enforcement?
So at our HIDA meeting, this was a big debate because the federal government, you have to pick one or the other as your main issue for your area. Fentanyl and opioids cause more death. Meth is more prevalent. So it's kind of a catch-22.
Which one did you choose? Which one did you choose?
We chose meth just because of the drastic increases. St. Paul has pulled off, I think, 4 50-pound loads in a month. That it was unheard of. If we used to 2 years ago, if we got 50 pounds of meth, that was a big deal. And now we look at it, if we don't get more than 10, it's like, all right, what did we miss? All right, the future for us. As you saw by the stats, our cases continue to rise. Deaths are at an alarming rate. Hopefully they don't double this next year. I don't know how we stop it at this point. There's plenty of education. There's free Narcan. So intercepting it is the best way we can do it. And again, cases and deaths outpace our staffing. We added 2 people, I believe it was 2 years ago. It's helped drastically, but again, it's the biggest thing we have going right now.
So, is the drug issue, methamphetamines, fentanyl, is it primary a law enforcement problem or is it a public health problem?
It's a combination.
So, public health isn't here today, but ask public health to help with.
You know, I think we do, I think our county does a lot with the homeless population, and that's a lot where the meth is. It's kind of all wrapped up into a big, ugly mess. And there are, HIDA is doing some public health stuff through social media already. We haven't engaged with our public health at this point. There's really no funding for any kind of programs out there at this point, but it's a segment of the population that's hard to reach.
Are you suggesting that there is a possible reduction in this if there was a program with public health and law enforcement?
No.
I don't know, Commissioner. Addiction is one of the worst things to overcome, and it's just it's a never-ending cycle.
Yeah.
And it is a lot of times runs in families, so it's hereditary for the most part. They see that all growing up, and that's the only life they know. And as they become adults, very difficult to get them out of that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Captain Bromberg, I attended the Association of Minnesota Counties Legislative meeting in March, and I'm just looked at my notes here because I made some notes at the meeting. Weston Merrick, who's with the Minnesota Management and Budget Office, does performance measurements, and he presented, I couldn't follow this whole conversation, but he was looking at medications for opioid use disorders and their distribution across the state of Minnesota. And he pointed out in this presentation that our region is much lower than the rest of the state in the utilization of medications for opioid use disorders. So it fits with what you're saying about our focus on methamphetamine, but it's been an open question in my mind. I mean, he was sort of calling out to county commissioners that this is something we should be tracking, that we should be looking at MOAP, I think they call them medications for opioid use disorders. And so I'm just sort of planting the seed for you that we've, our region, not our county, our region has been identified as below the state average for this, even though you're telling us Narcan's generally available. It's methadones, Suboxone, Narcan, a whole bunch of drugs. I don't know what they are. But so I just would call that out as something we may want to understand a little bit better as we look at what we can be doing for a community response to prevent these deaths and to deal with the underlying use of these kinds of drugs. So
we have a methadone clinic here, but it's to get the people into treatment. That's when they receive the drugs, and a lot of times, what I've seen in drug court too is that they're going to the clinic getting their Suboxone and methadone, but then they're taking a left turn and going to the local meth dealer for a little bit more. So they kind of tend to use it for a double whammy.
Well, you're certainly calling out that this is a significant issue that's not very visible to most of us.
Right.
So we're seeing these if Mower County or Fillmore County had a similar presentation, they would probably see similar increases in their.
Yes. So those numbers are task force wide.
Okay, I thought it said Olmsted County on the deaths. Overdose.
Yeah. The overdoses are Olmsted County only.
Yeah.
All the other statistics, the quarterly and yearly, are task force wide.
Okay, but similar overdoses in neighboring counties.
So, from a public health perspective, we're always to look at the data. The data is to drive identifying what community issues are. And so what's also going through my mind right now is, well, we've just done our community health needs assessment. This did not rise to one of our primary areas. And so it's another question and not an answer. I'm not looking to you for an answer, but how does this experience on our law enforcement side coincide with our community health needs assessment, and how does that data get filtered into our analysis of what our priority issues are for prevention and intervention? So I don't expect you to have an answer, Captain, but I think it's a question for us as a county.
I believe we'll see some stuff from the state after their numbers are finalized, because of my conversation with the lady who gave me the numbers. It's really set off in a lot. We're no different than a lot of the other metro areas. The overdose deaths have doubled, and some states, or some counties, more than doubled.
The question in my mind always relates when you say we're highlighted as not having necessarily the same response with the drugs. To get to an overdose, you have to know about it. I mean, how many of these, to be there and administer the Narcan, how often do we know in advance of that? So, I mean, this is really a conundrum. I mean, how do you identify these people, which we try and do something with them in programs, methadone or drug treatment, but how many of these do we know and ever get there in time to administer the Narcan versus their friend who they're doing it on purpose? It's really difficult nut to crack.
I don't know if you have statistics on this, but part of your thing is violent crimes, and I assume then as we're seeing increased drug use, then we're seeing increase in violent crimes.
In thefts and.
Did we have a shooting in Southeast Rochester yesterday?
Right.
Yeah.
So we normally look at it, meth addicts, or we almost never find guns with people with meth, but with marijuana and pill form drugs.
Always have guns.
Others.
Scary world out there.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, Commissioners. I'm Macy Tesmer. I'm the Operations Captain for the Adult Detention Center. I also oversee our Programs Division. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the Children of Incarcerated Parents work that we're doing in the ADC. We belong to a learning community that includes 5 other counties. We've been with that community for almost 4 years now. The purpose of that community is for us to learn from each other, see what we can do to improve our services. That the 5 other counties in that learning community are covered under a grant. We are not covered under that grant because we applied for it separately and they got it and we didn't. So that learning community is run by the Minnesota Department of Health and Dr. Schleifer from the University of Minnesota. We meet quarterly, and like I said, we share ideas, how we can improve services. One of the bigger things that we did is a parenting class that all the counties are doing, which I will talk about here in just a second. Some of the improvements that we've made since we joined the learning community is the ADC lobby. COVID gave me an opportunity to be able to remodel the lobby because we had it closed for a period of time. So we made it less sterile and more child-friendly. Our public visiting space has been improved as well. And the intent is to reduce the trauma. So if a parent is coming to visit the child's parent, we want it to be not a scary place for the children to come. Our lobby doesn't get as much child traffic as the visiting space, but we still have folks that come in to post bond or pick up the parent that's incarcerated, and so we wanted to make sure that we did that as well. And this is what the lobby looked like before, and this is what the lobby looks like now. I had fun with the fat heads, I'm not gonna lie. So here's some statistics. This is just for the first quarter, and then it talks about the total number of bookings and the total number of those people who identified as parents. So it's self-reported. We don't have a way to prove if somebody is a parent or not, so we have to go off of the information that they give us. Some people don't want to give us that information, so if you look at our numbers compared to some of the research that's done, our numbers are going to look lower than what the average typically is. So the thing that we just started with all the counties is the Parenting Inside Out program. It is the only validated parenting class for people who are incarcerated. And I'd like to introduce Corey Sherman. He's our programs corporal. He is the primary trainer for the Parenting Inside Out class. He just had his first graduate on March 31st. So like I said, it's validated. All 6 of our counties are participating and training that curriculum. We have 4 staff in the ADC that are trained to be able to present that curriculum. And then we have 1 community partner who is trained to offer that curriculum should somebody get released while they're in the middle of the program. The program is 24 hours of training, so we do 2 2-hour classes a week. But because our average length of stay is less than 30 days, there's a good chance that somebody will get out before they complete the 24 hours. So we have a community partner that can help them complete the program. It is a program that is very difficult to start in the middle, so we have to grab people at the beginning. And we had 2, our numbers are quite low right now. We had 2, and 1 got released before graduating, so. Right, Corey? These are some photos of the artwork that Corey does for the class. I think it took him more hours to do the preparation for the class than it did to actually teach the class, but some additional stuff. They have a, what is it called, Corey?
It's the parenting highway. It's sort of a metaphorical journey for the children that they take in their journey to work at class.
Would you like to come to the microphone? People won't be able to hear you.
He was trying to avoid that, I think.
No, this is just the parenting highway, they call it, and it's the, again, metaphorical journey for your children and your parents to take to destination adulthood, which is, normal, healthy adults.
Sorry. This is our graduate. This particular gentleman has been in our custody before and has taken other parenting classes. And we had some reservations about this class, but afterwards was really, really excited that he got to attend the class and that it was way better than anything he's ever had before. So yeah, we had that. So our future, one thing that we would like to do is to create some space for contact visits between the parents and the child. So if we become the Justice Center and we can grab some property from PRL, that's my plan. We also want to implement some more incentives for the Parenting Inside Out class. One of the things that one of the counties in our learning community is doing is at different phases in the class, they're offering an additional visit or additional phone calls for the parent that's participating in that class. So we intend on doing that. We did do recordable storybooks as an incentive for the first class. So they were able to record themselves teaching or reading a story, and then we sent that to the child. We would like to increase our community PIO partners. So we were supposed to have 3 that were trained up, and that was covered by a grant. And by the time the class came around, 1 no longer worked for the reentry program, and 1 worked for the school district and said he could no longer commit. So we have 1, but we want to increase in the future. And then almost 2 years ago, we combined a couple sergeants' positions, which means that our program sergeant is also responsible for booking, and I would like to have that sergeant's position back just to do programming so that they can help facilitate those contact visits, and also work with community partners in helping the folks, the children, and then the parents. There you go.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the Sheriff's Department, Captain Tesmer, for taking this on and being part of that learning community. I think there's some great opportunities that make a difference in the lives of these children. And, I've been active on this topic at the state level with the State Community Health Advisory Council, and now I'm on the Juvenile Justice Advisory Council, which has a Children of Incarcerated Parents subcommittee. And just to give you a little grounding for the board, the student survey shows that 1 out of every 6 Minnesota students in high school reports that they've had a parent incarcerated. And usually if a parent's been incarcerated, there's other adverse childhood experiences that are going on in that family. So it might be chemical abuse, it might be domestic violence, it might be poverty, there might be a lot of issues that have gone on in the family. Why that's important is that there's that shows that the more adverse childhood experiences a child has, the worse outcomes they have in their health, in their educational attainment, in life. And the higher those numbers, the more likely it is that we're going to see them someplace in our county systems. So the focus of this is really on trying to build resilience in children and the families so that you reduce the impact of the adverse childhood experience. And people who have experienced having a parent in prison or in jail will tell you that it has a huge impact on them. People will tell you that it's, kind of can be lifelong. So the state is now starting to invest, and once again, you're on the front end here, Olmsted County, of trying to look at how to really deal with this. So we're starting with the Sheriff's Department, but right now before the legislature, there's a proposal to create an Office of Parental Support within the Department of Corrections. There's looking at funding calls, because it starts at the moment of arrest, but through release from prison, of the impact of parental involvement in incarceration. There's also prioritizing children of incarcerated parents for targeted home visiting through public health, and targeting children of incarcerated parents for early childhood education within the Department of Education's budget. So this is primary prevention, what you're doing. We always think of the ADC as a place that we hold people accountable and try to restore them to law-abiding behavior when they release, but you're also working to prevent crime and prevent delinquency, improve outcomes for kids. So one of the stories that I always tell is when on this task force I'm on, is that when the sheriff told me one time of that, the Stewartville counselor, I think, looks to see who's in jail every day, because they know that if someone's been arrested and the parent is in jail, that child may need some extra attention, or may have behavior issues or whatever. So it's interesting how these things interlock, and you don't necessarily think of our jail as a place of primary prevention, but I know from talking to Captain Tesmer on other issues as well, is that it really is a place that we try to look to the long term for the offender, but also for the family. So I'm very excited that Olmsted County is taking a lead role here, among the 6 counties most engaged, and saying, what can we do to make a difference, to improve resilience for those kids, and to prevent their having trouble in school, having trouble at home, having trouble adjusting to society, just having a troubled life. So
we are the only county in our district that is doing any work in the jail for children of incarcerated parents at this time. So,
so once again, you're leading. So thank you. So,
Any other questions, comments?
I just want to comment for the public at large. When you think about the sheriff's department, everybody wants to get down on them, that they're just driving around looking at people to lock up and they're bullies and that type of thing. Just take a moment and see some of the other work that our sheriff's department's doing. We're pretty darn proud of them, and they are trying to make it a better community. So I think that's important to be said.
Thank you, Captain.
Well, thank you.
Just wanted to make a few extra comments here, and kind of go over a couple of things that was mentioned. You were talking with Captain Bromberg about, where's public health involved and stuff. What we've talked about, the sheriffs have talked about real lightly, is I'd love to see, we've talked about it at the State Sheriff's Association level, a TZD effort related to drug use and abuse and things like that. And what that means, TZD, is the Towards Zero Death effort. That's towards traffic and deaths and all the stuff we hear about, seat belts and put your phone down, all those things. Public health is involved with us there. We have a quarterly meeting here at Olmsted County that is state, county, and city together, looking at fatal injuries or fatal crashes and serious injury deaths each quarter of the year. So we just go back, look at them, and go, what can we do differently with our highway, with all these different things? If we could get the funding from the state, that's another effort. is focus on this and look at it in that way, where we could have a group of these folks, including Mayo and the ED. And one of the things that Mike pointed out that I just wanted to push a little further, one of those efforts is that the Sheriff's Association is asking for, and he touched on it, is to get the hospitals required to report those overdose deaths to law enforcement so that we can open possibly an investigation. I know that kind of makes some people cringe a little bit because, okay, now we're going after somebody who's got an addiction. Yes, we are. We're trying to work on that, but how did they get it? Where did it come from? We've got to look for that. We're not going to fix this problem just only by enforcement. It's a lot of different things that have to come into play here to make an effort. And it worked with TZD, with traffic highways, until the last year or so, and then we had some other problems. People just thought they could just drive crazy all the time. But we're going to get back at it. We're working on it. So that's one thing I just wanted to comment a little bit more about. And also with the VSET, I want to commend the county attorney's office too. They supply a legal aid to us. One of their attorneys, Jennifer Plant, is with us and advises the VSET. So the county, Olmsted County, not only has the commander and the technical, the support person, but also the county attorney's office is assisting with that group to keep all the sheriffs and chiefs in line. And then a couple other things I just wanted to mention that is important to note. This week is Correctional Officers Week. So we're supporting and congratulating and thanking in two ways. One, it initially was put in place, I believe it was 1982, by President Reagan to honor correctional officers and honor those who have died, fallen in line of duty in our prisons and jails and that across the country. But it's also a way to honor those that are currently serving. So before you leave today, there's a display by the information booth right at the main entrance to the government center. Stop over there, just take a look at it. And then, we're going to take care of these guys all week long, get some extra food and things like that. So we'll do some things that way to thank them. And we try to thank them every day. And then also on our Facebook page this week, there's some highlighted messages and highlighting some of our individuals in the detention center. And then 2 weeks from now is on May 15th, is Law Enforcement Memorial Day across the country, put in place in 1962 by President Kennedy. There'll be different programs and things going on, again, to highlight law enforcement, those who have fallen in line of duty across the country in our history, but also to commend and support those that are currently serving and doing that kind of work. So look to those things. Also locally on May 19th at 6 p.m., there will be a local memorial program honoring both law enforcement and correctional officers who have died in line of duty over at Soldiers Field Veterans Memorial. So you're all welcome to attend, so watch for those things. But other than that, any other questions? We'll get out of your way.
Mr. Chair, I think the comment that I've always had would ask the people, anybody listening, especially these times, to honor, respect, and appreciate the job, how difficult it is and how berated they have been. And last but not least, listen to them and obey the command. It's the simplest thing to do to avoid trouble.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sheriff, just sort of add on to Commissioner Brown's. Sheriff, I think there's something like, how many law enforcement entities are there in the nation, like sheriff's departments and police departments, like 3,800? I mean, there's thousands.
Across the country?
Across the country.
8,700.
8,700.
Sheriff for every county or whatever.
And we know that we have 87 counties in Minnesota.
Yes.
We have counties that are very, very different. Yeah. And we are able to design services to meet our community's needs. Yeah. And so sometimes I think law enforcement gets painted with a single brush based on somebody's experience somewhere, which may not have been positive. And we certainly have had an experience from 2020 and before where there's been a huge awakening. And now we see a recent report by the Human Rights Commission that some police departments are not functioning very well, but that does not mean it applies to everyone.
Right, thank you.
And it doesn't apply, I don't believe it applies here. I don't think you're perfect. I don't think the Rochester Police Department's perfect either, but I think we've taken a very skeptical look and applied experience in one place and implied that it's universal. And I don't think that's true. And I think you and Rochester Police Department have been under a lot of stress because of this public outcry and public debate. And yet I think you are accountable to our community and intend to be and will continue to be. And so I want to just take a moment to thank you and your department for all the ways that you keep us safe and look to our future of trying to create change. So just wanted to take that moment.
I also suspect those people that have an adverse experience are ones that don't obey a simple command.
Greg?
Yeah.
Just a
Thank
thought.
you very much. Sheriff, I heard you speak at an event sponsored by the American Experiment, which I was really happy to see that Olmsted was participating in that. And we talked about 21st century policing.
Right.
And I think that that's part of the direction that, our county, as well as other counties, will like to go in. So in the future, we'll probably have more discussions about how we are incorporating those ideas that are presented in the 21st century policing and the cooperation that we have within the region and within the city.
Right, yeah.
So I was very happy, and I think that your comments were well taken there as well. So, and the other thing is that we have gone through a process within the county of integrating departments. I think it's fair to say that many departments acted independently, and we went through this process of saying, well, that really doesn't work so well. We have to look at how public health integrates with HHH, how public health is part of the issue of homelessness. And I think that today's presentation is indicating that there's more possibilities of integrating of departments with public health as well as with the sheriff's department, because we're all interested in preventing events so that there doesn't have to be an interdiction later on. So, and I think that that's a challenge to the county and the challenge to the departments about how we can do that more effectively. But I appreciate the comments that your staff has given today.
Thank you.
And I'll just add, those are two very good presentations, so I appreciate the efforts that are going into.
Thank you.
You bet.
You guys don't hear it enough, but thank you for what you do.
Okay, before we get to board and committee reports, it's brought to my attention that at our last regular board meeting that we had, there was no record of us appointing Divya Bala to the public health. I think we did, but I don't know that there was a record. So
we did.
So for the record, we need a motion and a second to.
So move.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. She's officially appointed. Okay, now board and committee reports. Matt, do you have?
No, I have nothing more.
Sheila.
Just a codicil to that committee on incarcerated parents. We do have Captain Tesmer had been a member, but we determined that wasn't as useful to her. We now have Michelle Rudnick from Corrections, who is serving on that statewide task force. And I just want to mention that task force, the Juvenile Justice Advisory Council, gets direct federal money, and we'll be announcing some grants available. And so I'll try to remember to forward that on, but we may want to watch for that as well. And then I just also mentioned that the public health is there's an effort underway to really take a deep look at our state-local partnership on the delivery of public health services. And with our new Director of Public Health joining the State Community Health Advisory Council, we'll be engaged in that conversation. And it hasn't, the statute hasn't been updated since 1976. And so we're not exactly looking at statutory changes yet, but realizing that even before the pandemic, public health had been somewhat underfunded by the state, and the need to be able to tailor services to local communities had been eroded. And so we're in and just calling that out, that is another broad statewide discussion that's underway that Olmsted County is engaged, is represented in the discussion.
Thank you. Greg?
Anything else, Sheila?
Well, whatever you say, I'll add to.
Never asked that question.
I, along with Commissioner Tyne and other people, did attend the House America event here in Rochester, and it was held at one of our locations. And I know that Dave Dunn cut Commissioner Tyne from the video so that it appeared that we weren't there, but it really was. And actually, Commissioner Tyne had the best part of the presentation. But when we have those events in town, it really gives us an opportunity to talk to people that represent Washington, D.C. in those events. And I did have a little bit of a time to talk to Diane Shelley, who is the regional director of House America, and then spend some time talking with the staff of Senators Klobuchar and Smith, and talking about other issues that we really need some work on to resolve some of the issues for low-income people, in addition to housing, which of course would be also medical care that they're very short on. So I'm appreciative that we have those opportunities, and that our commissioners are well prepared to talk to the people about our needs. Thank you.
Ken?
Not a lot to report. We had a ROCOG meeting. Jim and I went to ROCOG in Ready. Ready's moving ahead with a number of initiatives, along with helping us on Seneca property, but some development funds, that revolving type funds that open to investors, and interesting projects. And at ROCOG, we did clarify, apparently, what we didn't clarify the first time we had emergency meeting. So that all went well, and the projects on 14, we still have high hopes for the interchange funding to come through, which would then eliminate the need for the J-turns. We had a wide-ranging discussion about how those are designed. It went on and on again, to, I'm sure, MnDOT's consternation about the design of those things. So Jimmy has anything to add, but that's what consumes some of my time.
No, go ahead, Ken. You're doing great. Are you done?
I'm done.
Oh. Well, that's one of the things that I didn't get done while I was commissioner. I'm announcing that I'm not going to run this time. So for all you listening in District 5, come on in. The water is warm. But seriously, it's been a good 20 years. It's time for somebody. I think I still got something to give, but it's time for somebody else, new ideas. I like to think that I do the Boy Scout motto, that I left Olmsted County better than the way I found it, and it wasn't bad when I found it, or when I first ran. So Ken and I came in together, and I guess we're going to go out together. So I don't know if that's good or bad. A lot of people probably think it's good, but whatever. So anyways, you want to run for District 5? Come on in. The water's warm.
Done.
Yeah. Thank you. Stephanie?
No.
Okay. Well, on Jim's note, first, thanks for your service to the Olmsted County. I don't have a board report, but I do want to put out there that we are going to have a number of board openings, and so we're going to have an open house on May 9th, I think at 6 p.m. here in the boardroom. Where?
Conference room 2.
Conference room 2.
Right next.
We'll find you if you get here.
Yep.
At 6 p.m. and there'll be staff and some commissioners around to answer any questions you have, because we need good people on the ballots this November. And the filing period is May 17th to the 31st, I believe. Hopefully I got that right. All right.
Close enough.
All right. That's it for me. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
What do we want, 5 minutes before cow or?
We in here or are we somewhere else?
We're, yep, in room 2.
Two.
Just,
Conference room.
yep, we're, yep, physical development, yep.
Let's shoot for 10:20.
Tell me how to do 2 next time. All right.